Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Well, I'm here and I'm waiting for me best buddy, and all I've got is a little blank screen. Sam, where are you, buddy?
I'm here, mate. I'm here.
Right. Well, I know what you're doing. It's blank. You are going to surprise me again with an addition or another upgrade to the studio, are you not?
Well, no. To put it bluntly, this is quite embarrassing because obviously everyone knows that there's a tiny bit of an age gap between us. And as a result, I quite often will poke fun at the fact that you are, should we say, a little technophobic. You're not really the most advanced when it comes to
technically challenged, I would say. I have my limitations. That's a fair point, yes.
So for me to be in the position I'm currently in is, well, embarrassing is definitely the word. And I think the only way I can kind of explain that to you, Drew,
yes,
is by showing you. So This is what happens when I switch my video on.
Okay. I it would be remiss of me if I didn't, declare to the world, those that are not watching us, Mr. Sam Dunning is upside down.
Yeah. No, I am not in Australia for this podcast episode. No,
mate.
For some reason, my camera has decided that I'm upside down.
Now, look, I have to ask you this: is in the world of technology that exists, and a great deal about which the only way you can put this right, mate. I mean, literally put it right.
Yes, very fun. No, so I'm hunting through the settings as we speak, and hang on, bear with me. I might go black for a second. Here we go. Yeah, screen on.
Blank and
hooray!
He's back. He's back.
He's back on the right way up. I can. The blood is no longer rushing to my head, and that was.
Sorry, man, that was.
No one would have noticed.
No one would have noticed if I hadn't pointed out the irony of the situation.
Yes. But anyway, enough of that rubbish. Have you got a drink? Because I need one.
I have. There we go.
Granted, cheers, it is still only water, but cheers everyone at home. Welcome to Drewling Samantics, or what as mine said a minute ago. So
yeah, brilliant stuff. There we go.
But yeah, how have you been, mate? All right.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, second week of rehearsal, so we've been zooming through that. Yeah, it's going very, very well. We are having enormous fun, as you can make. If anybody knows knows One Man Two Governors or doesn't, it's a great farce. It's fast paced, great energy, and yeah, we're having a big giggle with it. So looking forward to leaving the rehearsal room at some point next week and moving to the theatre. But this week it's been, noses to the grindstone, working quickly and having a great time. So that's been my week, and I've been enjoying it immensely. Your good self, what have you been up to?
Well, I mean, when our wonderful followers, listeners, viewers, etc., last joined us, we were just about to head off and do a show.
We were. Yes, we were. You're quite right.
Quite a running theme now, actually, isn't it? But yes, no. So we went off and we did an immersive dinner show, which was fabulous. Really wonderful audience. So post that, I've done that obviously, and then I've done a bit of prep work for a couple of jobs that are coming up. And of course, I've spent some of the week gone, or the week that we are ending now, preparing for our wonderful visitor today, who is an old friend of mine who I worked with actually fairly recently. And I don't know how we keep doing it, Drew, but I have to say we pat ourselves on the back because we do keep managing to find different areas of the industry or people that represent different areas of the industry to chat to and to hear the sort of inside story and the behind the scenes bits about their specific vocations and their kind of specialties. So I've been doing a bit of prep work, preparing for our lovely visitor, who I'm pretty sure is almost ready to join us, because I can see.
I do hope so. I'm looking forward to this. Really,
yeah, absolutely. Again, as said, a different area, but certainly an enormously important area of what we do and what we're involved in. And well, do you know what? Rather than me trying to find superlatives and things to describe it, so I'll click that button, let him in, and then he can tell us a bit more about exactly what it is that he does and that he's involved in. So
brilliant.
Hang on, here we go. And there he is, the incredibly talented, the incredibly dashing Mr. James Hall is joining us. Welcome to Drewling Samantics. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's very kind of you.
No, the pleasure is ours. James, please meet Drew, my partner in crime, and likewise, Drew, meet James.
Hello, James. Thanks very much for joining us, mate. Really lovely to see you. And yes, we're meeting for the first time. Although I know a little bit about you from Sam, but more of that in a little while. But because I've just met you and you're a newish and a fresh face to Drewling Samantics, as a little intro, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, who you are, what you do, where you come from. You know, inside leg measurement, national insurance number, anything like that.
Yeah, some of those things anyway.
Well, my name is James Hall, and I'm originally from a little town called Scunthorpe in North Lincolnshire, near Hull and Grimsby, Doncaster. And 10 years ago, I escaped and I moved down here. And ever since I moved, I've been working as a musical director, singing theatre arts teacher, piano accompanist, and a composer. And over the years, kind of straining towards more of those, but currently now more musical director, singing teacher. Doing all sorts of things. Yes, yeah.
There you are. That's it.
I mean, even just that is an incredible list of sort of different bits within your particular genre. So to sort of elaborate a bit more, and for those people out there that might not know exactly what's involved in being a musical director, you are essentially a conductor, but from the word go. So not just with a band at the moment of performance, but you help create the music that is played. You work with cast, you work with the musicians, you help create music, or you help perform the music that's used in shows, be that backing music in a play or performed songs in a musical, or as you say, things like you might have to help someone with an audition, so you accompany them in an audition or a musical exam. So there are so many different levels to that, and I guess the clue is in the name. You are a musical director, so you do the job of a director, but on the musical side of things. So what got you into doing that in particular? What is it about music that kind of said to you, this is where I want to go with my career?
It's a tricky one because it all kind of stems from what you want to do as a career, what you love doing, which is something I didn't realize until I was 18. And with music, I've always been a fan of music, but never really thought of it as a career until I was 18, because I was as a kid, I was ready to be a dancer and be a performer. And it wasn't until I was 18 when I realized that actually the idea of being told how to stand and how to move and to audition for work and to have to re-audition for work, as you know, all performers do, I suddenly realized that's not what I wanted. And dancing for me was a massive pleasure and enjoyment, which I didn't then want to become my job. And just the stresses around, you know, expectations of delivering a certain level of performance regularly and being consistent, for me, something I just didn't want. And so with music was always kind of still part of me, and music was something that I felt was more a job, something that I'd be paid to do and to do regularly. And the thing, as you said, is that the musical director umbrella is now this massive thing. And one of the interesting things and one of the most difficult things is that depending on where you are in the industry depends on how many hats you have or how many hats you're expected to have. And it's also to do with budgets. It's a big thing for us, is that budgets are a massive thing. And so because of that, I like the idea that my career is varied and there's lovely little pockets of stuff that I can do. Whereas I feel that as a dancer or as a performer, even though I'm not sure actually if I had gone down the performance line, whether I would have been a triple threat or not. I'm not quite sure if I would have been quite right or good enough for all those things to kind of be a triple threat. But I know that I would have probably been doing the same sort of thing and then going to teaching anyway. So, yeah, in answer to your question, musical direction for me was a much broader sort of career idea that involved a lot of things I liked. And also the big one is that when I went to go see shows, I very rarely was jealous of people on stage. And I think that's something that most people have, is they go, oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was in this film. I wish I was with that person working with them. Whereas I just always envied the person on the piano or the person in the pit. Yeah, for ages, I remember as a kid being like, oh, I wish I could just go play the piano for that. I wish I could conduct this. And so that's kind of, that's the reason why I'm here doing this, and not I mean, I have performed professionally, but not out of choice. It's been, by the way, you've got some light for this. It's like, oh, okay, I'll go get some help for this then. And I'm doing a show in Edinburgh this year that I've been written into, which I didn't know about either. It was just, by the James, you've got some lines in this, and you've got to dance in this as well. And I'm like, oh, it's great until I break a leg, and then you can't find a replacement who can play the piano and do my lines.
It strikes me. It's like we see when you see the people that are working on a show, and people are referred to as creatives. It's funny. I think sort of theatre has become, and people working in it, it's like an open plan office now, because the musical director is no longer down there in the pit in the dark. Someone that you only meet on band call, a couple of days before you start teching. That person, and rightly so, these people are in either in the rehearsal process or in the creating process. It's like wardrobe and design. They are seen. You get those into productions. So I mean, you are needed and also appreciated more, I think. Or not you, but we all are within the creative process. And it's like, it's like Sam said, you people may recognize your face because you work with Sam in Panto and MD in Panto particularly. I know I directed Panto last year, and the MD was there, the choreographer, myself were there first day. We're going, okay, this is the number, this is what the people, blah blah. Suddenly the MD was going, yeah, but if you waited a couple of minutes and I did so and so, then that could be going a bit, and you could slow the scene change, and it's a collaborative process. And music, I think, and musical theatre and theatre with music is so much more collaborative nowadays, and so much more appreciated, that I think we do see the MDs coming out from the dark, and the MDs are triple, quadruple threats, because they're not just playing and conducting. They have such an inclusivity within the creative process. So I can see why, as a child, you sat there and went, I think now if I went back to the theatre now, I'd get excited about that position as well, because you think, well, an MD is so important and appreciated far more for the skill that you guys have. I'm going to shut up now because I spoke a lot there.
that was quite ranty there, Drew. It was quite passionate. It was good, but
I do get passionate about my business sometimes. Sam, you may have missed this. I'm not just in it for the glamour and the money.
No, well, that's fairly apparent for anyone that's watching on YouTube currently. But anyway, we'll gloss over the fact that you're lowering the quality of the vision for people. But yeah, no. So you actually mentioned there, Drew, and people may well recognise you, James, because you did indeed appear on Drewling Samantics, albeit very briefly over Christmas, because we did do Panto together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's another example of a step further as an MD, because sometimes the annoying performers on the stage will involve the conductor / musical director, and even if it's against his will and he's not expecting it, they'll get him involved in certain bits. Hence why I know you better as Uncle Jim Jam. Uncle Jim Jam, the resident conductor and piano player for the pantomime. But panto obviously is a law unto itself. What makes it particularly unique, other than the fact, as I've said, that sometimes you have to interact with those on stage? What is it that makes it particularly unique doing panto as an MD?
For me, well, how can I say this? It's panto is panto, and it's unique. And for an MD, it requires. Well, this is where I want to talk about. One of the issues that I have with MDs is that a lot of MDs are just obsessed about music, and like music is their domain, and this is all I care about, and this is all I do. And yet panto is one of those things where you cannot do that. If an MD is like, I want my music to be like this, and this scene change is going to be 34 seconds, and I'm going to have this, it's going to be this tempo. It's completely pointless, because as you said, Drew, it's about the whole collaborative experience where everything has to work, and music is not just there just to, for them people to walk into and be like, oh, there's some pop tunes playing, this is nice. It's there, it's there to set the scene. It tells us where we are, tells us how these characters might be feeling, and in panto we have all these lovely traditions, like we have music for entrances, which comes from, traditional, all sorts of historical theatre as well. The idea that we have music for entrances, and we have, I've forgotten the word for it, which is really bad. We have, I can't remember, it'll come to me in a minute. But there's so much in panto that we need as a musical product to do a number of things if it's done properly. And one of the issues that I have is that sometimes it's literally, the MD's job is literally playing songs in panto, and I think that's really wrong, and I'm really honoured and privileged that I've been able to work on pantos where that's not the case. And building that musical world with the panto and the director and the creatives, for me, is really nice. And also for me, panto is really important because for a lot of children it's the first bit of theatre they ever experience, and which is why I really feel that panto should have live music. Just fundamental. I think there should be a law. There should be live musicians in that pit, no matter what.
Totally agree.
Yeah, because one of the nicest things that I had, with our panto this year, is that I go up into the box, I pop up, and half the people are like, oh, there's a man in there. Oh, who was this? And then the other half of the audience have already been at the front, and like with ours, because we had quite a massive setup in that pit and all that room, you got mums and dads and kids being like, you see the drum down there? Look, we've got drums down there. Look, there's a guy down there. Wave to the drummer. Look, he's waving at you. And then there's another keyboard down here. Look, Grace. There's another keyboard down there. Yeah. And this is where the main guy sits. It looks like and his keyboard is so flashy. It looks like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. With all the and it's and just the whole and the interaction, I think is also really important, because it also brings focus on the fact that there is music involved, and that it is a big part of the show. You can't do a panto without music. It's just not a panto. And I think, not all pantos do that. I know there's one panto in particular that I know the MD for, where the MD, he is literally a character in the panto every year, and he has ridiculous stunts that they do every year, and they're positioned in one of the boxes, and every year there's a crazy stunt that they do, whether it is abseiling down to the stage, or it's setting a piano on fire, or something like that. There's something for that. And whether, I personally think it's a bit extreme, that, but
we won't set fire to you next time we work together.
Yeah. But having having that additional kind of thing to play with, especially someone that you know. And it's nice panto with, especially when you work with a mixture of actors who are very comfortable playing with an audience, and knowing where the line is. And sometimes it's nice to have an MD, to have that person to either kind of measure that response, or I've had it before where people have kind of come to me because the audience have not quite responded in the way that they've wanted to. And so by using me, that has actually helped that scene or that gag if it's completely failed. I mean, for example, like, you know, our like experiences where the audience just wouldn't stop booing you, you know, and they're just, you know, they're just giving you a wall of
anyone listening. That wasn't due to bad performance, may I just add. It was meant to happen. I was meant to be booed, but they got carried away.
They hated you so much. Yeah. They really hated you. But you know, and when you get something like that, all you have left is is kind of me. And so when you're like, when there's nothing else you can do, it's, well, I don't know about you, Uncle Jim Jam, but do you want to go off and come back again in 5 minutes, or should we go to, you know, or should we just cut the scene, or, you know, and then it just adds that other little avenue of the performance, which I think actually is really helpful, but also really interesting.
It's heavily interactive, and to have you are an extra character in that. And it's the awareness. The audience are then aware that actually it's not just a case of we go through a show, do a great performance, and then at the end the musical director pops up and goes, well, I was responsible for all that music. They're already aware you're there from the word go, because you're involved and because you have those small elements of, I guess it's the equivalent of an ad-lib, where you're able to sort of change things slightly as is necessary to help it progress. But obviously panto is a complete and utter law into itself, and that's not what you're probably doing most of the time, because when you're creating something for a musical or working on an already existing musical, they are very sort of strict scripts and musical scores, which you are sticking to. But those are things that obviously have to be learnt and have to be taught, which brings me nicely on to talking about the fact that you have worked in some incredible theatre schools and music schools across the country. Guildford School of Acting, for example, done some work there. Mount View, I believe you've done some work there as well. Was it a kind of, we talked earlier about how you got into sort of doing musical directing. Was there always that element as well, do you think, that you wanted to pass knowledge on? Was teaching always something that you wanted at the same time as all that?
Yeah, I'm the third generation teacher in my family, which my mum is appalled by. And what's even worse is that we actually my entire family now work in education, which is really, really sad. Yeah, I'm going to confess something that I've never confessed before.
Oh, here we go.
When I was a kid, I set up an imaginary dance school. When I was about 6 or 7, I made a little logo and I had a timetable. And my dad made me, basically, they were wooden pieces of MDF that I used to put in my bedroom so I could practice tap on. And I used to put them together, and that was my little studio. And I had imaginary students, and it's helped me with my business now, because I kept bills. I kept I recorded like the costs of everything, and I had registers for all these students that never existed, and I loved making up the names. And I would spend hours just doing that. I'd get home from school, my first lesson would start at 4:30, and I'd teach all the way through till 9 o'clock, these imaginary people. I made up my own syllabuses, and I just, I did that till I was probably about 10, I think, 10 or 11. And I loved it, really loved it. And my parents thought I was mad. But please, I wasn't outside being a hooligan and loitering on street corners and stuff. So I was always interested in teaching, and I used to go into my mum's school quite a lot and help out. And when I finished my GCSEs, I was doing workshops in schools for free just to get experience. And an Ofsted inspector mistook me for a member of staff, which was quite funny. He asked me where I trained. I was like, I've just done my GCSEs. which was interesting. But teaching was always teaching was always going to be the backup plan. So as soon as I did my degree, I did a postgraduate certificate in education, and I trained how to be a secondary music teacher, which was interesting and fun, but also quite stressful. Education is not an easy industry to be in, especially at the minute. And so I spent a year training to be a music teacher whilst working and doing stuff on the side. And then I taught part-time in school for 2 years, purely to try and make sure that I was secure before I could go fully freelance. And the thing with teaching is I find it very natural. And, if you said to me, you're going to walk into a room with 30 kids and do something, I'd quite happily do that. Whereas I know for a lot of people, it's scare them shitless to do that. Whereas I'm happy to go into... I'm happy to go into any group of young people and do whatever. And so I think I was, because I started off at Italia Conti first, and I think I was teaching there. I think I started teaching there when I was still at university, I think, and I carried through my PGC when I was still there, I think. But I was also teaching at youth theatre, and I was teaching privately, and teaching in a huge kind of array of different places, which I really enjoy as well. Teaching in a school has its advantages and disadvantages, and then working in youth theatre again has its pros and cons. And what I basically learned is that I really like teaching at drama school level, and I like teaching technical singing, acting through song, working with rep, audition technique, and doing those sort of things in the room with people. And so, that's where I ended up, and what I've realised now is what I happily do for the rest of my career. I'd love to at some point be a head of musical theatre somewhere, I think. I'm not quite sure if I might be the right sort of candidate for that sort of job. I think it depends if I do any more performing or not. But eventually, I think I kind of see myself there as certainly as a head of music or head of singing or head of musical theatre somewhere, because it's something that I've missed this year doing my master's course at Mount View, and something that I get a huge amount of enjoyment out of, a lot of pleasure, which for a lot of people it isn't. People who watch this being like, oh my god, this guy's saying he likes teaching people,
So as I say, I can understand that. I mean, I did some teaching. I taught at Arts Ed for a short while, and my old drama school, Weber, for a wee while. And it's like you say, you walk into the room, and I also it helped me when I came to directing, because if you enter a room with passion and you love what you do, and one loves what one does, whether those people want to be there or not, and I guess for going into some schools, there are some classrooms that there are people that go, we don't want to be here, or they've got some doubt. You walk in with passion. There's no doubt that the teacher wants to be there. There, some way, somehow, something will seep through, even if it's just being passionate about something. Even if it's like, there is nothing wrong in loving something a lot. You don't have to love this, but you can love woodwork, art, English, doesn't matter. But I have certainly found, when I came to direct, it doesn't matter who, you have to start off, being passionate about what you're doing, and then being able to communicate it. And I think that communication in teaching, that certainly helped me, and also having been taught and been directed, you learn that language. And I think there's nothing better than saying, I've got this idea, and then telling whoever it is your idea, and then them suddenly doing it and going, oh, it was a good idea, great. And then, I find that really, really, really energizing. And, and I've done long days, as indeed you have, teaching. And at the end of the day, you just see it may only be one person does one thing well. And you go, that's it, done. The box is ticked. I can go home. I'm very happy. It's, and you mentioned maybe going back to performing. Is that something you would go back to? Do you think there's a little bit more a performer in James Hall that needs to be got out before you become that head of department?
I think for me, it's more a case of being connected to what you teach. And what's really difficult in these drama schools is that they want staff to be connected to the industry. And when I worked at Lanes, that was something that blew me away, is that the staff that they had when I was there was so well connected, and it was so great for those kids to go to the West End and see shows, and suddenly that person's teaching them a workshop the following week. And when I was there just before COVID, the sheer amount of people and the names of people that were in at Lanes, I used to be just kind of hovering outside, just listening to kind of see what was being done. And there was a few that I managed, like the one with Stephen Brooker, who is Macintosh's top supervisor. He did a workshop with them about acting through song, and what was really nice about that is that he says exactly the same things as we all did. And when I'm sat there with the head of singing, being like, yeah, we say all the same things, cool, yeah, we feel good, yeah, we'll carry on. But it is very difficult, because if those places want staff that are there full time and that can dedicate themselves to running a school and a college, and people to spend that time working on the course and the content. And especially with the courses that are accredited by universities, there's a lot of paperwork, like with any school, to kind of deal with. And so it's difficult for drama schools anyway to have that collection of member of staff that are there and that stay, so that you have these staff that kind of are there for a while and they can see the development of the college or the school and those students all the way through, and those freelancers that come in. And the best drama schools are the places that you go into, or colleges even, because I've done workshops at sixth form colleges. The best places are where you go in and they're literally biting your hand off. They want everything that you can give them. And I mean, as you said, the nice thing about drama schools is that those kids have fought to get in there. They have really fought to get in there. So they do all kind of want to be there, depending on the place. Whereas, sure, like in other places, it varies. And just like you said before, with regards to the teaching thing, you learn how to say the same thing about 5 different times, and you learn to differentiate what you do with each person. You develop relationships, and especially as a school teacher, especially as a music teacher, that most of those kids in that room are not going to be musicians. So what is the purpose of them doing music in school? Well, for a lot of it, it's actually life skills. It's about problem solving, working with other people, and do you know what? Just actually spending some time being creative away from core subjects. And so, when I was lucky enough, I got to write my own projects, and, year 9s are the worst because they're done. They just want to get onto GCSEs and do what they want. And so, part of the nice thing for me is you get to be creative. So one of my favorite projects, one of the projects that they loved, was the film music project, where, we would have Logic and they had the opening of a Batman film with no sound. And over the weeks, they would add sound effects and music into this track. And, I remember members of staff would come in and be like, your year 9s are so quiet. I'm like, yeah, because they're just, they're doing something completely new and different, which they probably can't do at home. And, it's just something different. But in drama schools, still trying to work out the relationship with all those different people, and what does that student need at that moment in time, and learning which students that you can just push that little bit and go, this is not good enough, this needs to be better, and working out which students those are, and those students that go, right, well, I'm going to bloody show you next week that I've got this nailed, and ensuring that, and that's difficult. And I have completely, mucked up a few times with misjudging where those are. But connecting to the industry for me is really important, especially when it comes to, like, with audition prep. For me personally, if I see someone kind of doing audition prep and they haven't been in an audition for the last 5 years, or they haven't auditioned, that kind of unnerves me a little bit. So, I was playing for auditions today. I'm at Dan Satic in Fulham for a company for a few things, and every time you go to those auditions, you're thinking about the process for us, but also for those people. And it's nice being the accompanist because you see how other people run those auditions. And so all of that is then filtrated through staff, into those places. And so I think before I kind of do that, I do want a lot more kind of a plethora of experience. I think performing wise, it'd be more of an actor musician sort of thing, because that's what I've done, and that's probably what I'm most kind of geared towards, possibly acting. But I probably wouldn't, I'm not in a place where I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go up for this role. It would be like, oh, we're really short of someone, we need someone quick, just get on, just get on there, and just, you got to just be a waiter and hand them drinks and fuck off, like kind of thing. I've done that. I was an extra in a couple of films, which were dreadful, but for me, it's all about having what you do, because I hate this phrase that is bastard about, this thing about those who can't teach. And what's really horrible about it is that it is sort of true, but it's not. And there are people who do fit into that category and people who don't. And for me, it's vitally important that if you're teaching at that level, which I've been very fortunate to do, you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to be able to be like, well, on this day, this happened in this audition and this could work to you. Or when I've worked on this show, this is what the expectation is and this is what you're ready for. Or this isn't the case, which is sometimes a lot of things. I've dealt with lots of students who are told they can't look at a panel or they can't do this. And it's like, actually, you can do whatever you want if you think it's appropriate. Or if in doubt, ask them whether can you direct this song to them, or can you direct it to the wall, or, and this... all those sorts of things which I think are vital for having that performer teacher kind of aspect, and ensuring that actually there's a lot of people who do stuff but who can't teach. And for me, having that perfect balance is absolutely crucial. And that's what drama schools are lacking at the minute, is having West End performers, or having heavyweight creatives, as I call them, heavyweight creatives who can't teach, and create these really awkward, often negative environments for students, where there needs to be that combination of those things, to support those drama schools. And that's what those drama schools need at the minute. For a lot of places, it's tricky.
So essentially, what I'm going to take from that is we're not going to see you river dancing anytime soon, because
if you come to Edinburgh, you will.
So that's interesting. There we go. Because we mentioned that obviously you started out trained as a dancer, and dance was very much your number one passion. But what even people that know you fairly well and know very much of your work and your career now probably aren't quite aware to what extent you danced to, and how sort of seriously you took it when you were younger, until you then, as said, made the transition over to the musical side. So it was I've read about your past career, or past things as a dancer. Quite some impressive accolades. Do you want to reveal a few?
Oh God, I'm surprised, but who's your researcher? This is
wow. Yes.
We're good, James.
As I said, it was very serious. It's what I thought I was going to do. So I was trained to be a triple threat performer by the time I was 18. And so, I was working through the grades. So I got to advanced 1 ISTD tap, and I did my intermediate ballet, and I'd done intermediate modern with the ISTD. I'd done all the grades and stuff. And I did local dance festivals, and I won a few awards for that. And one of them actually was a free week at the Performers College Summer School, which was kind of one of those moments where I thought, yes, I can see myself in places like that. And I was ready to audition for those sorts of places until I realised, actually, I don't think I want to do that as a career. Regarding Irish dancing, I was very fortunate to do one of the summer schools that Riverdance do every year in Dublin. And so in 2015, I did their summer school, which actually was, for me, was a massive turning point, because that's when I realised I don't want the stress of being a dancer, because the amount that we were drilled to, because we learned most of the show, not all of it, we learned most of the show. And when the detail is your leg is this high, and it's got to be like this all the time, because there's 20 of you and we can't have them out of whack, and getting all the beating right and the timing right and the jumps had to be the right height. And it was even more difficult because the girl next to me was tiny, and the girl next to me was, at a similar height to me. Trying to judge that, I'm not trying to yank the smaller people up with you, was really difficult. And the drilling of that rehearsal, I really didn't like. I found it stressful, and I didn't enjoy that. I just wanted to do it a few times and move on and do something else. But for me, it's incredibly useful in my job, though. Choreographers love me because I speak their language. I can count in eights. I can tell them what they've got. I can just make my favorite one is when you've got a piece of 4/4 and a choreographer tries to put a waltz step in, and I'm like, you do resonant 3/4 and it won't work. And it's like the whole King and I thing where they're going, oh, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's not in 3, it's in 4. Shall we dance is in 4, not 3. And so it's incredibly useful for me, again, having that triple threat sort of training as a kid and understanding, again, from a performance point of view, what their perspective is like, and being able to communicate with all those different people. And again, there are lots of MDs who don't have that. Lots of MDs are classically trained people who come through and who are very loyal to a composer and don't understand, the compromises that need to be made sometimes between direction and choreography. And I've worked with MDs who are like, this is the tempo of this number, and the choreographer's like, it's like, we need it faster, and they're like, no, it says 120 in this score, so we're going to do 120. And then it's just like, but what's the point in that? It's about, choreographers love me because I go, was that okay? Was that slow? Too slow or too quick? Do you want it quicker? And quite often it's far too quick. Just please slow it down. But like if it's a dance routine, like it's for the dance. It's not for me. It's for that.
It's that collaboration, as we've said all the way through. That's such a big part of it. So I could listen to stories of your dancing all day, but that's because obviously I spent a lot of time with you as my musical director. So I didn't know that side until we did a bit more research, because it's not something obviously that necessarily is the biggest part of your life these days. But that said, we are here primarily to talk about you as musical director, and we always like to finish up, before we say goodbye to our lovely guests, we always like to ask if you've got a funny story or an anecdote or a little bit of something that you can tell us and tell all our wonderful listeners and viewers, just to shock or to make them smile, or something that they can sort of really kind of enjoy and they maybe not expecting. So, Mr. James Hall, have you got a story that you could tell us, please?
So I think probably the funniest thing that's ever happened to me is that I was accompanying a choir once, and we got to the last number, and we were in a church on this lovely little baby grand. It's very nice. And we got to the last chord, massive big finish, and the leg collapsed on the grand piano, and the side of it fell onto its side, snapped the pedals off. Like on the button, it's like it was timed, and some of that audience must have felt that it was done on purpose for that, but no, it wasn't. And the choir director and the choir didn't even realise until they'd finished, and the applause was going, and I was just stood there with no piano in front of me as it was on its side,
halfway down
on the floor. I just kind of sat there and just thought, my God, I'm glad I sat that far back, because if I was any closer, my knees would be gone.
Ooh.
And and the choir finished, and they went to go off, and there was a piano in the way, and no one kind of talked about it. It was just kind of, I just kind of sat there and just left, and was just waiting for someone to go, what should we do about this now that I've just basically worked the piano till it had enough.
Wow. It's one of these like really old churches where like everything in it has been there since the beginning, and this piano's sort of like been part of the furniture forever, or
I don't know, probably. I mean, this piano was, it probably was like it was a 1930s 1920s baby grand, but it just I can't remember if it was the actual caster that snapped or it was the leg. Because I don't know, it depends. I mean, the way the legs are put in it, and it's probably a piano that's moved a lot, and just the wear and tear on that leg, and just me bashing down, having that massive chord at the end, just took it too far, and it just gave up. It just decided, right, this is where I end. This is where I'm going. This is
one
where
song very much is.
Yes, like, it probably hadn't been played. Yeah, it probably hadn't been played like that. ever, and it went down. And I mean, I think they fixed it. I never went there again, but I think they fixed it.
You never went there again, or you weren't asked back.
I didn't work for the choir again. It was a one-off. Can you come and do a gig for us? And it was in Dorking. I think it was in Dorking, and just one of those things. And I've never needed to go back to that church or been in the choir. So
never been brave enough to return. Right.
I was just thinking it's probably a good thing that they didn't ask for an encore, isn't it? It's like, sorry, not doing one.
But the timing was brilliant. Insane.
Brilliant.
Wow. It was literally perfect.
Brilliant.
Perfect timing. So now I'm interested to see if it's still there. I want to see the massive, great big L bracket on the leg that the caretaker was screwed in, because they think that's a good fix, you know.
Oh, well, James, you talk of perfect timing, and we love a segue on here, and we've had a perfect time with you this evening. I mean, we've had a lovely chat, and we say it so often, but please come back and see us, if for no other reason that we've got to talk about the number of pianos that you have in your life. So we'll have to come back and talk about a man who plays several pianos. And all of them, I think, probably in one piece. But thank you so much. It has been a joy to chat. Certainly, I mean, if people didn't know much about the life of an MD, they certainly know a heck of a lot more since we meet you. It's been a joy, and it's always a joy to meet someone who loves their work as much as you do, and as much as Sam and I do. So thank you so much. It's been a delight, and these times are always far too short. So just one more thing for me. Will you come back and join us on another occasion, please?
Of course, absolutely.
Right, that's it. Yeah. Job done.
Thank you. Uncle Jim Jam, it is always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you soon. So take care of yourself.
Thank you very much, James. Take care, mate.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. I mean, he said it all. I mean, he quite literally said it all. No. It's lovely to chat with someone. We say it quite often, but I genuinely mean it. When you've got that much to say, you've got that much passion in it, and you just want to talk about it. I mean, a delightful man to meet, a delightful guest, and obviously a very, 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 very talented gentleman. But what a lovely half an hour that was. That was lovely, charming.
Yeah, and I genuinely meant it when I said very few people will know, even like those people that know him quite well, that actually James is a very, very talented dancer. I mean, I'm assuming he still can dance, but his focus now is music. And actually, to get to the level he is as a musician, after getting to the level he did as a dancer, I mean, what a versatile performer, and what huge natural talent and ability. But yeah, it's fascinating to hear it from an MD's side, from the musical director's perspective, and to hear how there are so many different elements just in that small area. I mean, we always go on about how we like to have variety in what we do, and how there are so many different avenues you can go down. Well, these, I suppose, are sort of like little minor side streets off those avenues that he's talking about. So,
and also, I mean, what is patently obvious as well is his passion for education. I mean, it is, I mean, I've very rarely met someone who is teaching and working that doesn't enjoy it, but he obviously is well, it's enjoying it, but also knowing the importance. And as the arts are gently chipped away, and education is going to be sorely, if this government has its way, I mean, we're just going to have no arts education. So for someone, if anybody is listening and knows that they're a friend, child, peer, or whoever, contemporary, is being taught by James at this moment, grab it all with both hands, because someone with that passion, skill, and ability, and love for it, they're going to be disappearing, and we are going to be so sorely missed. He's going to be so sorely missed. If someone like that disappears, it's just criminal.
And admirable to be that passionate and at the same time selfless. Like the reason he does what he does is because he does want to pass on that knowledge and to help the future generations. And it sounds quite philosophical and quite deep, but actually we need to be like that at points, because as you say, things are becoming tough. not just in the industry, in life in general, financially, people are struggling and there are lots of hardships. But we learned very much from the unwelcome guests, the period where that was so prevalent, that the arts are so important, even on a simple level where you look at keeping people entertained when you cannot go out anywhere.
Yeah.
And if we're not educating the young generations, or some of them, to be able to do those things, then that's not future proof. There isn't that to come.
No, I agree. I actually don't. I think it goes a little bit further than that when you see someone like James involved in the education system. That I don't think we need to tell how people watching Netflix television and going to the theatre how important it is. I don't think we even need to tell our children or future artists. What we need to do is tell the government how important it is, because they ain't got the message, and we're stuck with someone like Nadine Dorries, who couldn't, she couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo because she's as thick as two short planks. She is. It has to be said. No, it's not. I don't actually think it's laughable. I think it's pathetic, because she is dangerous to the arts. She is thick as shit and doesn't know anything about the arts, and that is why the arts is going to suffer, because we are stuck with a government that doesn't care, and it's being eroded day by day. And having just spoke to someone like James, who is so passionate about it, and two people sitting here who love our business, we should be very scared to have someone like Nadine Dorries sitting there in control, and to have Mr. Boris Johnson's government with the money, because we are in danger. And it's only by being good. I mean, the Exchequer just don't understand how much money we make. They just don't. We should be very scared. That is, and I make no apologies for my little stand on a soapbox there, because it's my business, and it is my business, and we are all businesses within it. And we are going to be in deep shit if we can't do something about it.
And I completely agree, mate. And the reason I laugh mainly is I don't think anywhere but Drewling Samantics could we go from a man who was upside down on his own computer, then speak to someone passionate about the arts, and then have someone else suddenly have a minor tantrum about incompetent government. That is Drewling Samantics. What more could you possibly want?
That is what we're about. We're about that. And on a lighter note, Sam, what you got coming up next week in this wonderful world of show business?
Yes. While I still can be in the wonderful world of show business before it disappears. So next week I am learning a new script. I've been given a new script for a piece of theatre I'm going to be doing. So I am going to spend a lot of my time trying to get that into my thick skull. But yeah, so mainly that, the usual bits of voiceover, self-tapes, work hunting, prepping for other things that are coming up. All the usual, mate, as you're well aware. But next week, not the usual for you, because you are very much in the full throes of final days of rehearsal next week, I believe.
Yeah, well, the last couple of days rehearsal, Monday and Tuesday. And then Tuesday we start teching in Brighton Open Air Theatre. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the long range weather forecast is right, and we're going to have a reasonably mild and reasonably rain-free week, because we open on Wednesday, run through till Saturday. One man, two governors in the open air. So I'm looking forward to it
for you, mate. Everything.
Thank you very much.
And absolutely, people, get down there. If I can make it to Brighton, I'm going to be there. So,
bless you, mate.
But yes, do go down to Brighton Open Air Theatre and see Drew and One Man, Two Governors. And if for some reason you can't make it down, sadly, then if you were clever enough and hunted on social media, you might find the odd photo of my dear pal being cradled like a baby. I will say no more about it. I spotted it earlier. That's all the description it needs, really. I think is probably
I'm saying nothing.
Out of context, God knows. But yes. And on that cheerful note, or very confusing note, however you look at it, I think we should probably leave. So, Drew, I will raise my glass, not just to you and to Drewling Samantics and us, but to the incredibly talented Mr. James Hall, and also to our industry. People out there, please do keep supporting. because we're not getting the support we need in other areas. So what we desperately need is just for the general public to keep going. We love our performers, we love our theatres, we love our TV, our film, our radio, our musicians, our whatever. And I've mentioned but a few people. I'm not deliberately leaving anyone out. Any single person that's involved in this industry is an absolute godsend.
Damn right.
And we are proud and grateful for all of them. So cheers to every single person that does what they do. And as for us, we're going to do what we do next week. So we'll see you then.
See you then.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then please consider subscribing to our channel and you'll get notified every time a new video is released. Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app.
Please support us on other social media too. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.